All right. Yep, we're live, everyone. Holly is rounding up her kids and getting all that done while I do my side of stuff. Where am I at? Oh, I need to grab my phone. I've got a phone Sherpa now. How about that? Anyways, welcome to Political Head Trauma, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it'd sound like this. Humana. I'm still kind of busted up about what's his name. What's that? I know. I have to put a one ear in so I can monitor what we got going down. But anyways, welcome. What was that guy's name? The guy that gave the tagline? Brian Schott. Yes. Yes. He will be missed. Yeah, he got fired because he was offering to uh, give the kids the no books. So I don't know. I yes, it is doing something funny, and it's just mine. I don't know. Could be the way things are stationed in here. Maybe. Yeah, I'm sure they are real concerned about what I've got going on. But anyway, so I've got a well, that's the problem with Zoom through our restream. Hmm. We may have to kick the Zoom off and just go through restream. I know you hate that. Just make sure you smile the whole time. But I don't know why it I don't know why Restream doesn't pull you in. Let me see. You're coming in audio input. Let me try adding another audio input. Okay, talk now. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna kick Zoom off and go with the other stuff now. So give us just a few minutes. Yeah, it'll be on. I'll send it to your email. Sorry, everyone. While we play with the fun games now. Okay. She hates the restream. All right, here we go. as we got to send a whole bunch of emails. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Those are done. All right. But good news is that's why we do this startup prior to bringing in the guests, because otherwise it could go awry when it matters, and that would not be good. All right. Here's Holly.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead and talk.
So what an exciting week, huh? Did you see that your name says Goud on it?
Does it?
Yeah.
What's that? I'll change that right now.
So in the meantime, I could talk about, well, we had a call to action with all of our supporters and delegates and executive committees all around the state to go up to the Capitol on Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is. To listen in on an argument that was being had against the primary poll, the presidential primary poll that we took at caucus. Senator Thatcher wanted to hear from a gentleman named Darrell Acumen regarding whether or not our voters had the opportunity to participate in this primary. Again, it was a presidential poll, and it was a screenshot of exactly what we wanted to know from our state and from our voters, who Utah wanted to win the state. And that's how we got our decision. He wanted it to be legislatively handled, and we're a private party, and the way we choose our candidate is no different than the way Democrats choose theirs. They had a primary election, which cost the state millions of dollars. Elections do. Our presidential poll that we did cost the state $0. I still, at least our secretary still has every single voter's ballot, so that we can always have that. We'll hang on to that for 2 years at least. Some of the ballots went on too longer. But Thatcher's argument was there were people in our county that weren't given the opportunity to participate. One of them was regarding if they were part of the what is it called? The people who have a ailment or
disabilities.
Yeah. What are they called?
The ADA, the American Disability Act.
So people with the ADA we were not ADA compliant in our locations, to which our argument there was, well, that would have to be a problem you take up with the school board, because we rented schools to do our caucuses in, and schools are ADA compliant by law. And then we also had our primary or our precinct chairs able to collect any absentee ballots, and we gave an absentee option in case someone could not be there. And as long as they met the requirement of a copy of their driver's license and a signature on their ballot, and it's sealed, and it was given to the precinct chair, or anybody could bring enough from their family members. But there was like 2 per person or something if their family couldn't come. Otherwise, deliver to their precinct chair. So we have people show up united behind them before this committee.
It's doing it to you again. Anyways, everyone, I must apologize. Holly's internet is awful. It seems like Restream just doesn't work with Holly very well. So to sum it up, our local senator brought a case. He's a Republican senator, brought a case against the Republican Party out here, and maybe everywhere, saying that we weren't compliant enough to consider it a legitimate caucus night. Is that right, Holly?
Are you seeing me now?
Yes.
Well, yeah, it went against the whole state, and saying that we didn't count, that your vote wasn't counted. The guy that he wanted to bring up had also sent out 100,000 texts prior saying caucus was canceled and your voice wasn't being heard. So I have to quote the chair in Utah County, when she said, so he poked the hornet's nest and then he asked the hornets why they were mad. I mean, it just didn't have any, the legislature had nothing to do with this and should not have brought this ahead, because it's between the party. It's the party's right to run a primary how we see fit, which is the exact same reason that Kamala Harris was allowed to become the
what an honor to have Biden on my podcast tonight.
Yeah, well, it's the whole reason that he was able to become, or she was able to become. Sorry, I'm trying to join you in my phone.
Okay.
Hoping it might be better.
I'm going to turn one off and one on. Okay. How's that? She's talking, but she's got to turn her sound.
Gotta figure this out.
You got to turn one of them off or the other. Pick one, because it's screeching.
It's so lame. Killing me.
All right.
Can you hear me?
I hear an awesome echo.
Seriously.
Try talking now.
Even now?
It's a
How about better.
Now?
See, if I turn it sideways, it doesn't let me. If I turn it sideways, it doesn't let me see very much of the screen. And if I turn it long ways, then it looks really bad.
Oh. It's going awry, Holly. It's going awry. All right. Well, while I'm here. So everyone, so it sounds like our senator was displeased.
I swear.
Sounds like our senator was displeased with how he felt the caucus night went. He brought a case against it and lost. And I would like, I've extended an invite. I would like to talk to him to find out what his consternation with it is. I would like to know what he would like to see is what he would like to see different than is it aligned with his voters, with the party, things like that. And I don't know. But I've extended an invite, and I'll reach out to him again this weekend. Hopefully we can get him to come on. And maybe next week we could get him to come on. Holly won't be here, maybe, possibly. So maybe we can get him on then and
Oh,
chat
I
about that.
definitely want to be on. If he's on, I definitely want to be on.
Okay.
And the reason I
All
say
right.
that is because he did try to speak with me after, and he wanted me to know if I wanted to see the data of all the people that were upset that they weren't able to attend caucus. And my question wasn't necessarily, I said, data from who?
Well, you said that guy that
And
he wanted there
it
sent
was
out a
his
message
data.
saying caucus was canceled.
Yes. And so with that in mind, I was like, I think he's already
Did
scorched earth as far as I'm concerned, and I
did
don't
you
trust him.
did you ask him if he was aware that that guy had done that, and how many people do you think didn't attend caucus because of that? And I would ask him that. I
Well,
would let him, because he may not know.
oh, it was brought up in the committee. It was brought up by somebody who actually argued the fact they did not want him on the agenda because of what he had done. And these are Democrats and Republicans, mind you, that are heading this committee. Bridget Bullender, our own, or at least my senator,
Yeah,
was
I consider him.
also on that committee.
Isn't he a state rep though? But I consider him
Yes,
my
House
state rep as
Representative.
well.
So there were House and Senate members. Please, yes, excuse me. He is in the House Representative, and then
Uh-huh.
they had Democrats and Republicans, and it was unanimous against one, Thatcher. They did not
Really?
believe it had standing, that it was the legislator's place to discuss a private party's system in choosing their candidates.
Well,
Now, I wish they'd say the same about SB 54, but small baby steps.
I'll agree. I mean, we all know my feelings on the Republican and Democrat parties. I think they're the downfall and ruination of us. That being said, as long as that stands, I would agree that I would not want the government in place choosing who can run for government, because they'll just write themselves in. So that I'll agree with. But I'm
The room
gonna,
was packed
yeah, I'm gonna
yesterday.
mute myself. You go ahead and tell some more of the story. I've got to go turn the AC on because it is a bajillion degrees in here right now.
Oh, is that true? Oh, gosh, I should have
Oh,
get
dang.
you a fan.
Shucks. No, I turned the AC off last night because Katie was cold, and I've been outside all day. And
That's
so
a war
the
crime in
first
my world. No
it
one
is a war
touches
crime.
the AC.
I agree, but I'll be right back.
So I was very grateful. So many people from our county showed up from all over the state. They were there. The state party chair was there. I left a short interview on our page with the state party chair after the meeting. So if you go to Political Head Trauma, I did a quick interview with Rob Axon there. We didn't have to say anything, but we were prepared to speak on behalf of the Republican Party and the counties, because a lot of our counties, I mean, anybody that reached out to me or to their precinct chairs that wanted to vote but couldn't vote because they either couldn't be there due to they were going somewhere else or because they were ill, we offered them the absentee ballot option. So and again, they're saying it was not a fair vote. Well, it wasn't considered a vote. We didn't use county clerks. We did a presidential preferential poll. And that's exactly how, and we enticed a lot of people to come to caucus. And what's so interesting is in Grantsville alone, I know of 3 delegates that probably went to caucus only to vote for president, ended up staying and becoming delegates. And they're all brand new from like 18 to 23. And we were so excited to welcome these new delegates and these young, fresh delegates who went to their caucus for their first time. And only because of the presidential poll, probably were they there, and decided to stick around and even run for seats and won. So I think that caucus has to get into the 21st century. I've said this a million times. If we don't, we run the risk of having the state think that we're not a viable option for people. So, we're working on it now. Caucus is in 2026. But I know our county party is working on it now and trying to get new ideas, new ways to create caucus so that more people attend. And so, thanks, Fred. They're pink, and it's so funny because they matched this by Stanley, and I didn't realize that when I had them done. Someone pointed it out to me. So today's show, we're going to be talking to Katie, who is somebody that's been working on a curriculum, I guess, for a potential school. We got a lot going on. We went to the 9/11 event, the Tooele County Republican Party did. And of course, we had signs and stuff for candidates available, but we also just spoke with people, Democrats, Independents, Constitutional Party, and Republicans, just to make sure that they have all the information in registering to vote. Our whole goal is to get out the vote. We were grateful to the chamber for that. We had a great event, and I mean, that was last week, but if you still want signs, you just have to PM me and I can tell you where to pick them up. We always have, we have all the signs you need, and we are selling Trump signs. We did have to purchase them from the party, but they're only $6. They're good looking signs, and I recommend if somebody would like a Trump sign that they PM me. I don't have any Harris signs or Democrat signs. But there is the Tooele County Democrat Party page on Facebook. I'm sure that if you needed signs from them, you probably just PM them and ask for them.
Yeah. Adam asks, or Life is Driving on YouTube, he says, Ukraine flag border Jared? Okay. Fill it in for me. Is there a Ukraine flag on the border or a Ukraine?
Oh, yeah. The border around our screen looks like a Ukraine flag.
Yes, it does.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Who's the producer of this show?
One of the other people in there put it in. I'll see if I can't remove it while we bring on Katie. Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to. There's a backside of this. Let's see. Ukraine flag. That's right. I'm a Ukraine flag supporter. Oh, that's not it.
Well, you're not a Ukraine flag supporter.
Yeah, I'm anyways, Katie, how are you?
I'm doing so good.
Good. All right, let's have you talk a little more, Katie.
Hey, is my audio good? We're doing an audio check here.
Yes, we're doing an audio check. It sounds pretty good.
Okay, sounds
all
good.
Right.
Good to see you.
Hey, you too. How are you, Holly?
Great. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Sounds like you got a lot of cool stuff coming up. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, this is so cool. So I started a hybrid homeschool. It's called Liberty's Light Academy. And we meet together 3 days a week. And I'm taking students from preschool all the way up through 12th grade. And we do a lot of the core curriculum, the foundational kind of subjects. So we do math and language arts and all of the things that you can't really find in homeschool co-ops. A lot of the co-ops will cover like the electives, like the dance classes and the Spanish classes and jewelry making.
Hold on 1 second. Katie, do you have like a necklace or a bracelet that's rubbing against something?
Oh, is that rubbing against?
Yes. Yes. So if
Okay.
you just hold your mic out so it doesn't like dance on it, I think that'll
Okay.
work.
We'll try that.
Oh, that
Okay,
might be
is that
better.
better?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
All right.
Okay. Sorry
So
to interrupt you.
that's
Back
okay.
to it.
Most homeschool co-ops, they'll cover a lot of the electives and stuff, but I feel like there has been kind of a niche that's needed to be filled where some homeschool moms are just really scared to do the foundational subjects. They don't want to do math alone. They don't want to do like science and language arts alone. And so we try to like build in a community environment where you can come and you can teach with us, or you can just drop off your kids if that's better for you. And then we meet together 3 days a week. So we call it a homeschool hybrid program because they do a little bit of homework on the weekends to balance everything out and meet all of their needs. But for the most part, it's been taking about 50% of the weight off of those homeschooling moms who are like, I am just really scared to start. Or maybe they're dual income moms, like dual income homes where they're like, I have a desire to homeschool my child. I have a desire to get out of the system. I just don't know where to start. I don't know how to take on that burden myself. And this kind of takes off some of that pressure where they're able to get that support and get that teacher training that they need to become confident mothers who are homeschooling. And so it's been really helpful I'm just really excited to be able to provide that to the community.
Katie, you are speaking my language. I don't know. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, totally.
So I was in that same boat. I have one kid who wanted to homeschool and one that absolutely didn't. And during COVID, we chose to homeschool because I didn't want to mask the kids. And my hair started to fall out in clumps because teaching your own child sometimes doesn't work, especially if you were taught by your parents with very little patience when it comes to STEM math. Why don't you understand this? I became my father. And especially, like in Europe, they start school at 9 a.m. and they think it's atrocious that we've got kids starting school at 7:45 or 7:50. Or in my house, if I started school at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., my kids could work through later, and that'd be great for our family.
Yeah.
And as a stay-at-home mom, I would love to be able to I know there's a great homeschooling network out here of incredible moms that cover all kinds of different subjects, but
Yeah,
I would
churning
love to
butter,
know.
sewing,
Oh
chasing the
no,
goats around the yard.
they teach the Constitution, history. They even have like a piano teacher that does piano. They have a math major, or he's like a retired math teacher or something. He teaches them math, science. And then they can actually do a hybrid where they go to the high school for some electives that they want, or if they want to play sports. But I would love to have a focused curriculum for my kid
Yeah.
so he can graduate ASAP. He's already, in advanced classes. I would love for him to be able to take all the needed courses. And we had Will Roosh on our show, who's also developed a curriculum where it's $200 a month, and he's teaching kids critical thinking, history, civics, and he's in California and he's teaching them online. And he's how many kids does he say he gets in a class at once, Jared?
Oh, I
Was it
can't
like
remember.
20?
Something like that, but a lot of it is seems like it's kind of a personalized
Yeah,
experience.
he'll do
That,
one-on-one sessions with them, including class instruction,
and he
which
does some history in there. It'd be interesting, Katie. I'd suggest you look into him. It's called Patriotics. Look into him, see if it's something that that you might want to look into adding to some of your classes. I don't know, as a job aid, and maybe you can work out a deal with him. But
it's Patterdox, Padderdox. And he was a guest on our show. His name was Will Roosh. but he only taught these 2 subjects. The fact that you're doing a hybrid with multiple subjects,
Yeah.
and where are you located for people
So
who want to join your?
I'm super excited. We just got our very first building. We're on Lehi Main Street. So you really can't get any more convenient than that. If you're in Salt Lake County, if you're in Utah County, we're smack dab in the middle. And we rented this little 1940s brick building. So it's kind of got that cozy, like one room schoolhouse feel. And it can accommodate like 25 kids, I guess 30. I guess if we really had to push it, we could fit 30. But it's just like this little micro school environment. And there's kind of this razor thin wire of how to define exactly what we are. Cause I'm like, we're 3 days a week. So we're like a private school, but we're small. So we're like a micro school and we've got all the grade levels. Maybe we're like a learning center or a hybrid. They're all kind of like these new terms that are coming out. But it's like a lot of people, a lot of leaders who want to get out there and open these schools because there's such a high demand for it. Like, we're taking the risks, we're finding the buildings, we're getting the funding. I've got desks, I've got everything that we need. What we need is moms with courage. Honestly, that's what we need, because there's so many people who have that desire in their heart to get out of the system. And like you, Holly, like they're just losing their hair in clumps. They're like, how could I possibly teach my child? Like, how could I possibly put the weight of their graduation onto my shoulders alone? And honestly, I feel like as a society, we've been led to put our kids into public school because we like the camaraderie. We like the sense of community and the sense of, I don't have to do this alone. And I really encourage people to go look at hybrid options, specifically our school, Liberty's Light Academy, because it's a place, it's like a stepping stone for parents where you're not doing it alone. You're getting the training, you're easing into it, and easing into like establishing the routine in the family of, how do I prioritize family time with a heart that's open to learning new things, you know? And anyway, so it's just, it helps a lot. So it's not all on the parent, and you can ease into it and you can ask questions and you can have that community built in.
So tell me this. I mean, I love the idea of a building, because then you actually have that organization where you've got one spot that you're taking your child. And then is it got any religious, like, do they pray in this school? Is it non-denominational? Is it just do they do pledge? I mean, what
Yeah.
type of school is it? And does it cost money? Like, what kind of money would we say?
Would we be looking at? Yeah. So we charge tuition because 75% of my budget just goes to the building. So I'm not getting paid. None of the teachers are getting paid. We're all just communally coming together and doing what's right for our kids, you know? But we wanted that space that feels a little bit formal. Cause for me, it was like the kids stay in their pajamas and they flop on the floor and they don't want to do what I ask them to do. And I'm like, you know what? It sounds easier to build an entire school than to pull teeth getting you to do this math assignment. I would rather build a whole school.
What about a 16-ounce paddle? Would that motivate them?
My
Hey,
kids
it's
get a lot
legal
of
in some
push-ups.
states still.
But anyway, so we like having the building. There's a tremendous amount of sacrifice that goes into that. So tuition is a part of that, just so that we can communally agree that we just want a formal space to school our kids that gives them the pleasure of that classroom feeling. There's some things that at home, when you have a kindergartner who's like, yeah, I want to get out the glue and the scissors and the sprinkles you're just like, I really don't want to mess for one kid. But in a classroom environment, you can justify getting out the paint and making a mess, and everybody gets to help clean it up. And it just seems more manageable. You know what I mean? Or you're like, why am I putting all of this time into preparing a lesson when my audience is like one child? And you just feel like,
so
feels like climbing a mountain every day.
Jeff Adamson wrote, my wife, Darla, homeschooled 3 of our grandkids during COVID, started every day with a prayer and posting the flag and Pledge of Allegiance and then the lessons. I would love that especially when you're homeschooling, I think prayer brings family close together. And I think that when you pray in a group, and regardless of who or what you're praying for or to, I think as a group, when you together, I don't know, start of a day, start with a prayer, I think it kind of gets everyone in a sense of a kinder mood, maybe more calm. It is like a meditation in itself, prayer
Yeah.
is. And it just maybe calms everyone. I'm curious, do the teachers have to be educated in, public education or have a certificate of education from college to teach? Or could it be a mom like me who just loves history and doing um, role play like I do with Patriot Camp, where we just kind of role play out the different parts of history, because that was me. I was a visual learner, so to act out the Boston Tea Party was far more fun and educational for me than it was reading it.
Yeah, 100%. We do start with prayer. I think that's very important. We start with the pledge because that's another thing that's been stripped from our schools. I know, like when I was a child, my mom specifically wanted to pull me out of school and homeschool me because the Bible wasn't allowed in school. And she felt like that was the most important part of teaching. Like, what better education can you get? I mean, in the olden days, people would learn to read because they learned to read from their Bibles sitting around the fireplace. And so she felt like that was the most fundamental, important part. And so,
Well, Jared, you could agree the Bible is a history book too,
agreed.
right? I mean, Jared doesn't believe in the Bible, but you do believe in the historic parts of it,
I
right?
see absolutely no problem with having religious schools exist. People, I could see if there was an issue if it was state funded, but having a school that exists on religious terms, I think that's positive all the way around.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So with
agree.
you have ages 5 to 12th grade, so I'm
Yeah.
curious. Like, you've got, is this building like one of the old schoolhouses from Little House on the Prairie? Does it have separate rooms? How does a 12th grader learn beside a kindergartner?
Yeah, it's fascinating. You know what? Like they learn so much from each other. My daughter, who's a teenager, she would sit at lunch with a 7-year-old, and that 7-year-old was teaching her how to play the piano. And then my teenager was like, I think I want to pick up piano. Like she's really helped me like value this beautiful thing, because of the 7-year-old's talents. So they do teach each other all the time. They rub off on each other. Really
Okay.
in positive ways. And so where it's practical, we love doing the one room schoolhouse where all the age groups are together. So for example, like science and math, those are really easy subjects that you can teach with like all the different age groups together. And we might stick a group together where a 7-year-old is working with a 15-year-old and you say, okay, this is your group. How do you make everybody equally yoked? And so like last year we did 50 states and we had the teenagers doing all the research and putting together the presentations, like the oratory part of the presentation, and then the 7-year-olds they were doing Indiana, and so they cut out like cardboard boxes that looked like race cars, and they decorated the little boys to look like race cars because NASCAR is in Indiana, and so the way that they
Indy
kicked off
500.
yeah. So the way that they kicked off their presentation was they're like, okay, who are you rooting for, the yellow car or the red car? And everybody picked their teams. And the kids ran around in circles in this big giant gym, and everybody was cheering for which car they thought would win. And so it just was so fun because the kids got to put in those creative hours, like building something that was meaningful to them. Like my daughter was doing a report on Wisconsin, and it was the night before her birthday. And she goes, oh my gosh, I want to put together a piñata. So she did like a giant cheese piñata, like a cheese wheel. And she like stuffed it full
Yeah.
of candy. And she did her presentations. And all the kids, no matter what age they were, ages 3 all the way up, they got to hit the piñata and get candy. And that was the way she spent her birthday. She's like, yes, this is what I want to do for my birthday. So it's interesting, like how they invest so much of their creativity because it's not required. It's just that they have the love of learning. They want to have that creative expression. They put their whole heart and souls into their presentations. And like 2 days ago, we were doing a presentation on Christopher Columbus. So this year, our history is the 7 miracles that saved America. And so it talks about everything from Columbus all the way down through the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan, which is going to be super interesting. I'm like, I wonder if the assassination attempt of Donald Trump is ever going to end up in a history book somewhere, because I think that's just important to document. Like, how in the world do you miss a bullet like that? There has to be a purpose, you know? But anyway, so
were you doing the 7, I'm sorry to cut you off, but were you doing that based on Chris Stewart's book, or were you doing 7 miracles on something else?
Yeah, Chris Stewart's book, 7 Miracles That Saved
America.
America.
A lot of people don't realize Chris Stewart was our congressman, but he was also an author. And I have his book, The 7 Miracles, and I love reading it with my kids in all ages. And now when you're teaching these vast different ages, are you still teaching them how to pass state tests?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we do have a scope and sequence for every grade level to make sure that they're staying on point. What we have been finding is that there's almost a learned dyslexia that these public school students are getting by being in the system. When they're doing like whole words and sight words as the way that they are learning to read as like their foundation, they're not being taught to see the granular differences. Like there's an I in the middle of this word, or an A comes before or after the E. These little nuances in the middle of the word kind of help you to spell better and help you to pronounce words that you've never seen before. If you understand the phonics rules for why we pronounce words the way that we do, or why certain vowels act the way that they do.
Except after C.
We've lost all of those basic phonic rules. Yeah. So
and I learned that Common Core that's erased that, right? Yes. These little I before E except after C, or the phonics way to sound out the words. I mean, like I, as a learner, observe, when I think of a word, just go on the internet and look at there, they are, and there, and you notice how many people misspell it. And English is a hard language. And for people that it's a second language, they're just like, how many different words are there for there? And they can all mean different things. Swear versus tear, and where versus, tear. There's so many different ways that you literally have to teach them the fundamentals in such a way that they can grasp it, and then it's not so foreign. But I don't see Common Core doing that.
Yeah, we've put phonics back into our language arts learning. So we're teaching the kids schwas, macrons, breves. Those are all like diacritical markings, like that upside down E, or the O with 2 dots above it, the umlaut. And these are completely foreign concepts to people of our age. And so it feels like a daunting task to be like, really, are we really going to take this on? But in our school, we actually teach that at 1st grade. And so they're learning to read through diacritical markings, through upside down E's, and how do vowels work, and all of those phonics fundamentals. And we're finding that they're learning very quickly, but they're also able to self-govern at that point. If they see a word that they don't recognize, they can take those diacritical markings in a dictionary and sound out the word and understand what it means, and help themselves learn the definitions, help themselves learn pronunciations of words, because they know those diacritical markings. So it's almost like a skeleton key that opens up all languages to them, and it was something diacritical markings.
German, the O with the dots.
Diacritical markings are something that I was not even exposed to until I started learning opera. And so because I wanted to learn how to pronounce other languages, to learn the pieces of opera that I was learning, then that's how I was like, oh, there's like this whole other world. But if you learn that universal language of diacritical markings, you can decipher any language. So it's like, that's maybe what we should be teaching. They teach it in first grade. So we just made it a policy of our school. Every child will start back at Language Arts 1, because those are the things that they don't understand, when to use a K or when to use a CK when you are spelling a word, when to double the F or double the Z based on what vowel you hear inside of a word. And so we have kids who are coming out of public school and they're like 13, 15 years old, and they don't know how to spell door. They spell it DORE. And then they learn all of these phonics rules, like when we double the O and all these concepts, and their spelling just takes off, because they really understand what to look for in the pronunciation and then apply that to the spelling.
It's brilliant. I mean, in Europe, you get a lot of, English is usually taught in most schools in Europe. A lot of European kids are able to speak more than one language. It's got all these different countries, and you've got English and French and German, all and Italian, all in this little cluster. So being multilingual, lingual, or even just bilingual, it's needed there. And yet in America, it's not, you don't start studying language till you're usually junior high is when you pick up a second language. And yet if you were doing it right, you start kindergarten. Do you have any bilingual or other, teachers there that can teach kids while they're young?
Yeah, we do have bilingual families enrolled in our school. We haven't really found a perfect way to put in those electives yet. To me, the foundational subjects were a lot more important of a priority, because I feel like there's one day a week co-ops that you can find kind of everywhere in the homeschool world that will take care of languages and all those other electives. So I feel like that, I don't know, the market's saturated in a sense with all of those types of things, but it was like the mothers who need a little bit of extra handholding and support to do the foundational subjects, like getting their kids' handwriting up to speed or whatever. That's where the homeschool world, I think, is not quite meeting the needs of the public yet. And that was really important to me to provide. But now that I have this building, I'm like, wow, we could do an elective day on a Monday, or we could, put some high school courses in. So we actually have Mr. C. He's very famous homeschool freelance teacher, but he's doing a workshop at our school on Mondays. So he's teaching a writing workshop to like high school level kids, ages 12 to 18. And they learn a lot of really fantastic writing skills. And he does a class on Friday as well. I think he's teaching the Roman Empire, Greece, Rome, and Egypt. He's teaching on Fridays. And so that's separate from Liberty's Light Academy, but hosted at our building. And so we want to make sure that we can provide that resource if there's freelance teachers that want to just have a book discussion or teach a one-off class, that they have this building as a resource that they can rent and provide those classes as well.
Do you offer a Zoom option for kids who maybe live too far away to commute, but want to still go to your school?
I love that idea. I want to do that so desperately. I have to grow. I want to grow in pieces. I want to provide an online option. I really desperately want to open a second location down in Springville or Spanish Fork. There is such a high demand for education outside of the box down there. And I probably get phone calls several every month of people down south who really want our school down there. So that is my goal. If there's anybody down in Spanish Fork who hears me, I'm coming. Like, it's in my 5-year plan. I just have to, get everything stable.
Zoom option would be so incredible for those. You get maybe some retired teachers who want to assist on these certain matters. And then you have that teacher at the school, but doing a Zoom class like they would any other class on maybe the off days. Or, then people like me in Stansbury Park, my kids can attend your school and I'm not driving them an hour each way. And I love that you're bringing in other people. My other question was going to be, now that people are able to choose like where they send their kids, they get a voucher, right? So can they use that voucher towards your school?
Yeah, that's a
The
great
homeschool
question. So
voucher?
Utah Fits All is has been a really incredible resource for families who's needed that extra funding for tuition and stuff. We're not a vendor per se. However, we are having success with parents who get pre-authorized for our school. They pay out of pocket, but then they get reimbursed through Utah Fits All, and that's been working really well for families. But we've found that the pre-authorization helps put you at the top of the pile when you go to request the refund, or the reimbursement.
So what about grants and things? Are you guys, have you applied for grants? Do you have a grant writer on staff that can get you guys more funding?
We're all just moms here. But yeah, we were given a grant last year, and it was a $10,000 grant that was granted to us as a micro school. Yeah, it was from Vila. And they're fantastic. We were able to use that to help us get this building. So like the deposit and the first month's rent and stuff like that. So that helped us do. Yeah, it was awesome. And it's very, very, very difficult to get a building in Utah. They actually just had some legislative work done that the people who host Tuttle Twins, so that would be like the Veritas group.
Right.
They helped to pass some legislation that helps micro schools be able to be in residential areas where previous to this, you would have to get a commercial property, and commercial properties are incredibly expensive, and you can't find grass, like we were in the market for a building for an entire year. And it was we like just kept looking at different options. Like, do we need to go in with a whole bunch of different groups? There's another group called I Create Collab, and they got a building down in Orem on it was like just off of UVU campus down there by tracks. But anyway, and they had to go in together with a couple of different groups to be able to afford the building. And now they have this beautiful space in Orem. And so I think that there's a demand for it, and we're opening these spots, and the ground is ready and it's fertile for moms to step out and to be able to take the courage that they need to homeschool their kids and make sure that the community is receiving them and like lifting them up and making it possible. And I want to give a shout out too for my girl. Her name's Amy Carroll, and she's starting like a homeschool coaching business for people who are stepping out of public school and they just need to find resources. Like she's there to just like catch you and point you in the right direction. And so, I think all of us want to be there for each other. So it's like, if you're a mom and you're feeling alone right now and you just are so scared of how to step out, we are ready. We've been there and we know how to help you step out, and we're waiting to receive you. And that's like just the biggest message that I want to reiterate over and over again. Like, you just haven't found us yet. We're praying for you and you're praying for us. And like, we just need to connect.
It does seem like the government tends to, I shouldn't say the government tends to, it seems like a lot of roadblocks are put in the way because the Democrat Party or even some Republicans, they don't want different ideas coming forth in youth. People who enjoy big government and want to have all children stamped in the same mold to where they come out with the dominant religion in our country, the government worship religion. And that's good. The Tuttle Twins stepped up and got that law that just sounds absurd, where you can only start up a school or a micro school in a commercial area where they can pop a state-funded school anywhere they want.
Right.
And the state-funded school gets to rob you blind to do it, where you guys have those roadblocks. So kudos on them fighting that. And I think that's the big thing you've got to do, is fight through all that muck, And I do have another question back to the government school thing. Do you have DEI members or any trans ginger teachers on staff to make sure that you're in compliant with what they want kids to learn?
We have no compliance standards that we have
Sorry,
to
parents.
fulfill.
Oh, I'm sorry, parents.
Not government funded, and because we're not government funded, we can preach God, family, country. We can be.
Well, that means that the liberal moms won't be able to go to their book reading clubs and out liberal each other. Be more liberal than thou. I shouldn't say liberal because technically we're all liberal. The progressive, ultra progressive moms. They won't be able to, make their dads look like a just violated neighbor's cat standing there while their daughter son pops out of the box.
I think at the end of the day, Democrat moms and Republican moms and libertarian moms, I think we all we love our kids and we want our kids to be educated. And I think that if there's something that we want them to learn, social justice or government sided party stuff, that can all be taught in the home. And unfortunately, we live in a country where to survive, people have to have dual incomes. Like they can't afford the luxury to sit home and homeschool their kid, but they want their kid to get that close knit attention and to learn the basics without their child getting taught all this extra stuff. I think it's great. I mean, that you're offering, hey, look, be brave, come teach here, or be brave and admit your child here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it, teach what we're not teaching at home.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Get your child in a piano class every evening from a private piano teacher, or get your child in a singing class or something. I mean, there are so many options, and soccer and football and whatever they want to do. But this is about learning the very basics that's going to help you be a functional adult in society and help you get a career someday where, the fundamental things that you need to learn are being taught. Because I've seen plenty of studies on college reviews and how many kids, it's such a high margin of kids that go to college and end up doing a job they never studied for in college. And a lot of them have to take electives that they have to take for their major that are absolutely ridiculous, that have nothing to do with their major. And yet they're paying for this. Why not put them into, let kids design the curriculum or the idea of what they want to learn. Let jobs and careers tell them exactly what they need. And then let's have a meeting in the middle. Is college even necessary? You want to do X, Y, Z with your life. Okay, you want to be a doctor? Well, yeah, you're going to need to go to college. You're going to need to work anatomy. You're going to need to practice on people and probably on cadavers. And you're going to need to learn this and that. But you want to be a teacher? Okay, go learn the subject or the many subjects, but go learn inside a school like yours where you're learning a number of different subjects. Be able to pass every test you're asking a kid to test and do, and then learn child development, learn these different roles and different age groups and their behaviors and the things and the way they learn. Do they absolutely need to go to college, take gender studies and Taylor Swift studies, and then figure out, okay, now I need to be a teacher, and you have to pass all this social justice crap? I think there needs to be a national conversation about how important college is and for what careers it's needed, because some of the most successful people in this country never went to college. And I think that says something. And there's so much debt people going to college and never do the career they went there in the first place to do.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot, like in my husband's workplace. So he fights computer hackers for a living, and he's saying that it just seems like the people who are coming out with degrees are not the people who have the passion. It's the people who were 10 years old putting a key logger on dad's computer. Those are the ones who have passion to learn it. Yeah. And so
And they're
that's really what
self-taught.
they're
Many times
self-taught.
they are self-taught.
Yeah. And that's really
And
what they're starting to look for more now than the college degrees is the passion. It's the, have you gone out and paid for your own certifications and your own training? Are you going to, black hat out in Vegas and buying your own ticket to get there to educate yourself? That's passion. That's a lot more respectable, I think, in people's eyes. There's just like, I agree with the national conversation. I feel like there's just a shift happening where we're starting to say, was going into debt for 20 years really worth it? Like maybe there's faster ways, like MTech in Utah, that's at Thanksgiving Point. It's a really fantastic resource where you're just submersed in whatever field you want to be in, and you're getting that trade school type, training. And I really do want to try to be a standard to the community as well, to give opportunities for teenagers to teach classes. My kids were interested in teaching this year. So my 16-year-old is actually teaching kindergarten this year, and she is fantastic. She's so good at it.
that
Yeah.
makes
And
sense to me.
it does make sense to me too. If you are a student yourself, you're going to be better at teaching, and that's what we say to the moms too. Like, it's just a different shift in your mind where you're becoming a student and you're just becoming open-minded to sit down and have an educational experience with your child, alongside your child. I think when you think of like, oh, I'm responsible for all of their graduation requirements today, yeah, that feels really scary. But when you're like, okay, today, what do I want to do with my time? Today, I love my children. I want to show up for my children, and we're going to just sit down and read out of this textbook for an hour. That's more achievable. And if you make those little micro decisions every single day that point you in the right direction, you will have the child that you want to have. One of the other things I always tell moms to do is to sit down and just write out, what do I want the character of my child to look like when they're 18? When we're all gathering around for that very last Christmas, what is my child going to look like? What skills are they going to have? How are they going to treat people, like the relationships in their family? How are they going to treat their mom and dad? What are they going to aspire to become? What does their character look like? What have they achieved educationally? And then go back to today and say, well, what book should I choose? And then all you have to do is just show up for your child. So it's really more about establishing routines in the home and just saying, we're going to carve out 2 hours on a Monday or 4 hours on a Monday to sit and study together, or we're going to carve out a little bit of time to go to a 3-day-a-week school. But it has been this school has been a blessing to people who are not able to teach as well. It's optional. It's not required the way that a homeschool co-op would require a mom to host a class and be there. And that has, the drop-off aspect of our school has been a huge help to people with like autoimmune disorders, where their heart wants to take their kid out of public school. Their heart wants to be a homeschool parent, but maybe they're highly fatigued and they just don't have the physical ability to do that. Then the drop-off option is better for those types of families, and we can help provide both.
Or they don't have patience.
Yeah.
I mean, I can have patience a million times with other people's kids. With my own, it's a struggle sometimes because I have the expectations of them, and I know what they're capable of. I've seen them do it, but I'm mom, so it's an argument. I was just thinking, with your daughter teaching kindergarten at 16, can you imagine if something that she loves, and so she does it next year, and she does it when she's 18, and then she decides at 19 to go apply at an elementary school because she's got 3 years experience under her belt teaching kindergarten. And I mean, not to say that being a kindergarten teacher isn't difficult. It's got to be one of the most important years in a child's life, because it is that is the teacher that has to inspire the child to get that love of learning and
Yeah.
to learn to read. And for boys and for girls, that is one of the biggest, most important things you'll ever learn in life. So being a kindergarten teacher is not easy. It's one of the most important jobs, I think, of any job in the school, because you've got to get these kids not only to learn AEIOU and to sound out words, and you've got to inspire them to love it. And I
Yeah.
think kids listen to older kids much better than they listen to adults. And I think that, my kids' favorite teachers still to this day are the teachers they had in kindergarten. And they were the teachers that taught them how to read. And both my children love reading. I think it's a special type of person that can encourage and inspire a little kid in any way. But as they grow up, reading is everything in every subject. If you can't read, it's hard for you to do much else that doesn't require. I mean, how do you understand math? How do you understand, basic history? If you can't read it, if you can't research it, I think that this should be every child or every person who wants to be a teacher should have this opportunity to go and learn and get some experience under their belt. And again, with the argument of college, how many subjects are out there on YouTube nowadays that are
Anything.
very educational? And I mean, I learned how to stop my faucet from leaking because I couldn't afford a plumber. And I went
Yeah.
on YouTube and I watched a tutorial, and it took me a while, but I figured it out, and I was so proud of myself. And that is how people gain self-esteem. It's
Agreed.
not by being told how great they are. It's by them achieving goals that they have set for themselves and accomplishing those goals. And that's something that creates a well-rounded adult, by finding challenges and beating them. And I don't think that has to be done in the rank and file public school system. And some kids fall off in that system because they're not treated well by their peers, or because they're accelerated in one subject and bored, or they're dyslexic and there's so many of them, teachers miss it.
Right.
And the child just squeaks by, and the parents are just happy they got through, and nobody realizes when you're in a class with 20 people, parents or teachers pick up really quickly if a child is struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, our class sizes average about 6 kids per class, which is perfect. I mean, yeah, it's been really nice. Yeah, and that's not to say my 16-year-old doesn't do her own studies on the side. She does. So it's kind of like having 2 part-time jobs, because she's doing her own studies and she's doing the kindergarten teaching. But we really want to do a customized plan based on the goals of each student where we can. And so for her, it was practical for her to do some leadership training this year. And that was a really great opportunity that just naturally presented itself, and she's doing a lot of studying and a lot of writing and speech and debate tournaments and stuff on the side. But she's like, you know what? She's like, it has changed my perception of how I look at the importance of education, because I am now educating other children, and I have to inspire that, like you said, that love of learning. And she's like, now I understand, because I want them so badly to learn these concepts. Now I understand, Mom, how you are viewing me as a kindergartner, and you're trying to distill to me all of this wisdom and all of this knowledge and push it into my head before I turn 18. She's like, I'm trying to do that for these kids because I love them and I want to shape them and I want to see them grow and be successful. And so she's like, she goes, I just take my education so much more seriously now. And I don't think she would have had that opportunity in either way. And not only is this leadership training for her, but just practical parenting opportunities, like mommy training, because I feel like now in my day and age, it's probably going to be a requirement for a lot of us who truly deeply care about our children and our children's education. It's not really a choice to go back into the system, go back to public school. I think it's going to be part of motherhood to know how to school your children. And if I can give them that confidence to teach now while they're little and it feels natural to them, then, they're going to be a lot better off when they become parents. So
I think it's remarkable what you're doing. I love that you have a building. I think that, like you said, that brings in a whole new type of parent, the parent that wants so badly to get their kid out, but still has to work a job and,
yeah.
To be able to afford basic necessities and to know that there are moms just like them that 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 love education, believe it's important, and there's an actual learning facility they can take their child to and get taught by moms like them. Is there recess? Is there, do you
Yeah.
guys
Yeah,
playground?
we were in the market for a building for a year because we couldn't find a patch of grass in a business parking lot. So this little 1940s house, it's zoned commercial, but it's like perfect because we have a little patch of grass outside and we do different recesses. So some of them are unstructured and some of them are structured. So like we'll go out and play phonics games and we'll go out in the grass and play language arts review games, and we have little competitions and stuff and they get to run around in the grass. And so it's like a structured recess in that sense where they get their wiggles out, but they're still learning and retaining and getting spelling practice in a competitive way. And then we go back in and we have our language arts class, and everything runs so quickly, even though it's a 5-hour day and we're only together for 3 days. It's like you come home and you're just so beat, like your brain is full. It's crazy. And the comprehension is so high. Last year we had 23 to 25 kids, and our kids were testing at 90% or higher in every subject, every student, even
That's
the ones who
amazing.
had learning disabilities, even the kids who were below grade level, at grade level, above grade level. Every child in every subject was testing at 90% or higher.
And you're looking on state tests?
So they're not state tests. They're like our own curriculum. We test for retention about every 4 lessons. We'll give them a quiz or something just to kind of check retention and make sure that the lessons that we're teaching are being understood and are clicking for them. And so there's that like fine line between like, what's the difference between a private school versus this learning center hybrid model that I'm doing. And one of the biggest differences is grading. And so we do not offer grades per se. We offer quizzes and tests with a numerical value. If we gave out grades, we would become legally responsible for the educational outcome of the child. However, I fundamentally believe that the parent is the owner of the outcome of their child. I really think that it's the parent who has that divine responsibility gifted to them from God and should be responsible for the educational outcome of the child. So for that purpose, there's a law that says that you have to fill out this little affidavit to let the state know that of your intention to homeschool, of your intention to be responsible for the educational outcome of the child. But we do provide data from quizzes and tests, and the parents get to derive whatever grade they choose for their student to put on their own transcripts that they keep privately at home. So I hope that makes sense.
So
but
if their child missed like 5 out of 20 questions, the parent could say that, okay, they got a C on their own. Could the child get the opportunity to retest or to do fix-ups? Because I love my local charter school. I love it because they do something that public school doesn't do, and they call it RISE testing. And they do it 3 times a year. The beginning of the year, they test the kids in math, reading, vocabulary, things like that. Well, when they do that, all they're doing is trying to figure out where that child is level-wise on their ability. And then they adjust the child to the classroom that best fits their level. So my 5th grader was in an 8th grade vocab or English class, even though she never left 5th grade. She stayed in 5th grade. Just for English, she went to the junior high and learned with the other kids there. And they do it throughout the year so they can always gauge where the child is and if they're comprehending and if they are absorbing or if they're struggling. And then if they are struggling mid-year, they can move them to a different class. And the child is constantly, they always are changing classrooms from the time they're in 3rd grade. I think they're moving around. So it's natural for them to go to different classes for different subjects. And it prepares them for junior high, high school. I love that they were on point with where my child's education was throughout the year. And then the last one of the year is, again, it's not graded per se. It's just, okay, your child is at this level. He's done with English now. We're going to put him next year. We're going to focus on language arts and literature and creative writing because he's already got through all this. That was helpful for me. And I don't know why public schools don't do that, because then you don't get kids left behind. And you've got kids going to their skill level rather than to what the school says there should be. And we're fighting grades every semester. And I would love to know, does my child understand the content of what she was just tested on? Why did she miss 5? Let's go back in and figure out why you missed it. I would much rather she's retaining the information that she's taught than to say, oh, she got a D on this test. Shoot, now you're going to have to do extra credit or this or that, instead of, wait a minute, what did you miss? Why did you miss it? Let's go back to and study the whole point of that test, and let's see what in there you did not actually dissolve, or understand.
Right. And I think one of the things that scares parents when they're like, oh my gosh, I can't be a homeschool mom. Like, what if my kids don't learn? What if I put in my best effort and they don't retain anything that I say? So it's like having a quiz or a test. Yeah. Having a quiz or a test every 4 lessons just to check that retention, it kind of helps the mom sleep at night too, And when you say, but how do I know that I've done enough? What is enough? It is kind of a blessing that we have state standards that you can just go and research and say, what is the state standard in the state of Utah for 5th grade science, right? And at least you can hit those standards and know that you're not below. But you can say, well, my kid can do more than this, and so I'm going to build it up in this way or that way. Or my kid, at least I know, is at grade level and we haven't missed any gaps. And picking out the right scope and sequence that's at least going to cover the bare minimum state standard, right? So it's like, at least you can sleep at night and say, I've done enough, right? And if I can rise above that standard, then we're doing something exceptional. And if they're actually retaining, 60%, in our case, 90% of what we're teaching, that's enough. So just set those markers. That's what I say, set the markers. What is enough? And how do I know that I can sleep at night? How will I know that I'm on the right path? And just set those lines in the sand of just how can you measure yourself as a mom to say I'm headed in the right direction, my kids are getting what they need? So I recommend state standards for that.
What's the biggest barriers you found in both being a homeschool mother and starting up this homeschool academy?
I just had a baby.
Yes, you did. Congratulations. 2 months ago, right?
2 months ago. Yeah, I'm running a school. I just signed a lease on a building and I have a newborn baby. And so
I know someone
messaged
me. Someone messaged me and said, hey, just had a baby. And I didn't see any pictures of the baby. So I don't know how I feel about that.
We don't know that
Jared, I'm going to send you a picture. I thought maybe it didn't come through.
Oh, okay.
But I announced it. It was my first home birth, which I guess.
So you did the full home birth.
Yeah, I did. It was my first one.
Did you have a midwife?
Yeah, I had a midwife, I had a doula, I had my husband. I was rocking to go. And my midwife is incredible. She knows so much about medical stuff. I felt very safe in her hand, knowing what kind of medical equipment they bring. But I think like being a
So did
mom
she
in a
bring
post,
like bones and a piece of leather and throw the
yeah,
bones,
she
maybe
like
some
tied a strap
sage?
and she's like, do not scream.
She's,
Hey,
she
you
hands
didn't
you
mention drugs
a teal
once.
dowel. Bite on this, it
Yeah,
helps.
Yeah, if you don't
no,
mention drugs at all in this experience, I'm out.
this is a true story. Okay. I went into labor. I set up a babysitter for my kids to go overnight at a friend's house. But she did not show up in time because labor just starts when it starts, right? And so she was on the way driving to pick up my kids. And my kids are hearing me in pain because I am in labor in the bathtub upstairs. And the bug spray guy came to the front door. Yeah. And he's like hearing me upstairs in pain. He goes, "Is your mom okay?" And you know my Lily, Jared. Lily
Uh-huh.
goes, my mom is in labor right now. I have to go. Bye." And she slammed the door on his face. She's like, "I gotta go. Bye." You have to apologize to him later. You can't like plan these things in advance. You know what I mean? I got to cancel today. I had no recollection that that guy was going to come.
Yeah.
So these
Well,
are my words.
okay. So outside of the brand newborn, and Lily is an awesome young lady. She's very impressive.
What did you have?
I
Boy
had
or
a
girl?
girl. Yeah, this is my fifth baby, and it's a girl. And she had red hair. She's my only one who can't. I have these platinum blonde babies. That's my brand, right? I thought we had my family brand well established, and she came out with red hair, and I was
And the
just like,
ginger
wow.
sneaks through.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that was really cool.
but just for any mothers out there, any parents, fathers too, who are thinking they want to explore homeschool option because maybe bullying is an issue they see, or religious aspect, but just on general, what are some of the barriers to being a homeschool parent?
Very well. You mentioned bullying. I'm going to go there. We have, I want to say, I want to say no bullying. Maybe I'll be generous and say almost no bullying in our school at all. It's not a problem. It's not a
Mhm.
problem. And I think number one, families get to be together. And that feels like such a privilege to not be segregated by age groups, that you're all learning the same concepts. You can come around the dinner table and you
So
have so much to relate to each other and
what
so
you're
much to
saying
talk
is the bullying comes from older brothers in your school.
about.
Well, the barriers I'm thinking of, like, let's say as a mother, you choose, you're like, that's it, I'm done with my school.
Yeah.
Um, my daughter just got the mean Facebook messages and she's distraught. What are some of the barriers a mother deciding that could experience on that journey? Like, what's the process?
For me, I was scared, like, how do I even know what curriculum
Well,
to
like
choose?
how much does it cost?
Our tuition is 375 a month, and that's per student. We offer tuition discounts. If a parent comes in and they do want to stay and teach, we do a trade. So one of your kids is going to get in for free tuition because you're providing that service of teaching to the school. Or if they want to be a
Well, that's
janitor,
good.
something like that, we'll do a trade. Like, so I want to support moms as much as I can in that regard. But yeah, it's scary to pick your own curriculum. You just have no idea where to turn. And so going to a hybrid model where we've already figured that out. We've already done the vetting of all of the different publishing companies. We choose Christ-centered publishers. And so there are times where like we'll do a science lesson and it will tie into like a really cool scripture at the end. And we'll just pause and take a minute to like memorize that scripture. And then we give the kids like cool points that they can use for a school store or something like that. There was a really cool story that we were reading last year, and it was about like a boy who was blind, and he was going to a blind school for the first time, and how he struggled to like just put his clothes into the dresser and do all these things that blind people would do. And eventually he made a friend, and that was it was like this beautiful ending, and there was this moral at the end of the story. And they tied it into a Bible verse that said, "Do not dig a pit for the blind." And so they got to like memorize this Bible verse about blind people and how we need to help others and be charitable to others. And it was just cool. It was like, oh yeah, that's a clever way to like tie in a Bible verse. So anyway, but yeah, being able to pick the curriculum, I think, is huge. Being able to be in a Christ-centered environment has been huge. I see the kids learning 3 times faster than I've ever seen them learn in public school. Being able to retain the information because you're learning through the Spirit, I really think that's huge. And not feeling like you're in a threatened environment where the teacher is going to bully you, or your peers are going to bully you or judge you. Like, everybody wants love of learning. Everybody wants what's best for each other. And so we're just seeing kids rise to the top of their own potential, whatever that looks like, and whatever grade level we put them in, ability class, because we don't go by grade levels, but it takes a lot of weight off of parents to know that their kids are going to be in a safe place, in a safe environment, around safe mommies who have the best interest in their children and the best interest in making sure that the teaching in the school is at its best because their children are invested in the same school. Now, and that's not to say that you can't be a teacher if you don't have children enrolled. I mean, if you are someone who's retired and you want to just come and volunteer, that's a choice. I would really like to do a process where I can get like service missionaries to come into our organization and be teachers. I think that would be incredible. Like we mentioned, like good, responsible teenagers who just want some internship training as a teacher, we would definitely be open to that idea. You don't have to have students enrolled, it's just that we typically find that those are the people who are most available. But
What
we've had
about
retired.
like a retired guy who could teach kids shop
Yeah.
and maybe has the materials, or comes on or lets them come to one of his shops? Do you have like background checks and stuff for all the parents and
I
teachers?
think background checks are important, and so I don't require like a teaching license. I don't require any amount of like previous experience because, like I said, it's important to me. I feel like it's part of my founding mission to be a stepping stone for parents who are coming out of the system. But if you happen to have a lot of experience homeschooling or teaching at church or whatever, I just think that that gives you more confidence and makes you more comfortable. But I do think background checking is very important, just so that everybody knows that we're in a safe environment in that sense.
And is
Very
there a
good.
denomination of church that or do you just make it about the Bible, or are you an LDS school?
That's a great question. So we teach a religion class, and that religion class is from an LDS perspective, so Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint perspective. However, we use lots of different religious curriculums. So like our math and our language arts, that's from a Mennonite curriculum. Our history and a lot of our science, we pick publishers that are Christian publishers. And so in that sense, we're non-denominational in the publishers that we choose. And it just happens to be a popular request to teach from Come Follow Me. So from a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint perspective for our religion class. And that's not to say that our religion class is a substitute for seminary, but I do think that it's important to start your day with prayer and start your day inviting the Spirit in and cultivating that Christ-centered environment. And that's why we choose to do that religion class. But some people, like if they want to qualify to go on missions, they need the 4-year seminary diploma in order to have a proselyting degree to go into certain countries. And so that's a priority for some families to be able to have that seminary degree. So they just do seminary on the side, online, or you can find little homeschool groups that do like early morning seminary, just different things like that. So there's definitely those resources out there, but we just think it's important to start with discussions and prayer.
Could a child opt out of, say, learning the LDS curriculum stuff, but maybe doing an online course for whatever faith they believe in, if they're Muslim
Oh,
or
for sure. Yeah. So
Jewish.
our first class of the day is religion. And so if someone wants to opt out of that class and just come 1 hour later to school, they get all of the fundamental classes, like our science, our language arts, science, history to the end of the day. So you would just skip the first day, the first hour of the
I
day.
agree that the kids starting a day with a religious class, I think is great. I think it's amazing, and I wish that more high schools had other denominational classrooms like the
Agreed.
seminaries do, because our family's
Agreed.
not LDS. But I think having a maybe just a Church of Christ, a Christian church that only teaches the Bible and the fundamentals of the Bible and Christ's teachings would be great. When he asked some of the barriers, I think as a mom, some of the barriers for me would be cost, of course, and location. Making sure that I could get my kid there, and I'm curious, what is tuition for a 3-day a week? And are they getting the full state expectations of learning in 3 days?
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes, I would. Yeah, I think curriculum wise, when they come out of public school, there's a huge jump from like public school curriculum to, there's a publisher called The Good and the Beautiful that's really popular out in the homeschool world. And from The Good and the Beautiful to what we teach in Light, another huge in standards as far as like rigorousness and looking for like the holes in your learning and making sure that you fill those in and build up the confidence with those things, and like just math drills and things like that that can take your weaknesses and commit them to memory and strengthen your confidence in those areas. So curriculum wise, yes, we are hitting the standards. And then tuition wise, we're $375 a month per student. And like I said, we give sibling discounts, we give trades, different things to try to make that workable. You can get Utah Fits All or Harmony as a grant type situation where you pay out of pocket, but then they will reimburse you for those funds. And so we do what we can to try to make it workable for families to be able to afford it. But it was a founding priority of our parents to be able to have a building to go to. And so that's what we use 75% of the money that goes towards. So it doesn't go in my pocket. It goes toward toilet paper. It's like owning a second house. You have to have fly tape. You have to have toilet paper. You have to have,
electricity, and gas,
all of the same things. Yeah, we have internet. We have all the same things that a house does.
Do you guys teach on like the MacBooks and things like that, or is this all book learning like it used to be?
I like book learning. I think that's really important,
Me too.
And yeah. So, I mean, we got a couple of laptops because we thought, oh, we'll use some like learning apps and stuff that we can kind of throw in the mix to give variation to the learning. And the kids don't ask for them. They don't really like them. They don't really need them. And so I just have a couple of laptops sitting around as a resource. Sometimes we'll encourage them to like, hey, let's get on and like learn how to do slideshows. So different ways of presenting, like the trifold cardboard way, or, the creative element, like sculpt something out of clay, as the creative element of your presentation, or do a slideshow as part of your creative element of the presentation. But in general, we don't use computers. We don't need them.
My son has just started high school, public school. And I was shocked because day one, he's given a computer, a laptop. And I do like that in real time, I can see what assignments are missing and needs to be turned in. A lot of them he can do on the laptop. And he can't go to certain websites and all of that. He can go to YouTube. And I was raised where if I didn't know a word, I had teachers say, well, there's a dictionary, go look up the word if you don't know the meaning. And nowadays, yes, there's dictionary on your laptop, so pull it up on the laptop. But it's replaced books, and yes, we're going into a technical age. kids have to know how to work a computer. It's going to be very helpful in their careers if they can run a PowerPoint or run an Excel spreadsheet or a Words, these things. But I could also see that being a class. Not every class is taught that way.
Yeah.
Because some girls are going to grow up and want to be wives and mothers and care for their families in the homes and take home ec and sewing. And some men aren't going to want to be computer programmers. They're going to want to work with their hands and do construction or, be a plumber or electrician. So I think to assume that every kid needs one of these. Are you guys a 501c3?
We're working on it. We're in the process of becoming a 501. Yeah. So it just takes months to do it.
Yeah. And I've done that. And then if you get donations from people, they can write those off, but they probably couldn't write their tuition off if you're 501c3. Would they?
No, not at this time. Yeah, but donations can be written off. So we are doing a fundraiser. This is so cool. We decided to do a fundraiser that's based on acts of service. And so for every $1 that people donate to Liberty's Light Academy, our children pledge to do an act of service in return. And so that's been really, really fun. We put up a little service wall, like we decorated a little wall, and every time they do a service, they get to write on a flower and stick it to the wall, and it just is like decorating the wall. So beautiful. But that's what we're currently doing to help us kind of like get gelled and get started in this new building. So if you want to donate to that, you can go to libertieslightacademy.org. And at the bottom of the page, there's a donate button as well. So that's running through the entire month of September. So we felt like in honor of 9/11 and like the day of service that's happening in every city, we wanted to be able to work that in where it's easy for families to go serve and work that in as a way to pay it forward. So for every $1 donated to our school, we pay it forward by serving the community.
Our school does, a run, and you sponsor the runner and they have to do this many. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's great for health and everything. And I hope you do have exercise and stuff for the kids and they learn about healthy eating and healthy lifestyle. But active service is it's like a ripple in a pool. One little act of service can go for days and days. It's contagious. People get treated well, or they, even holding the door open for someone can give their day just a better day, and then they treat someone else better. And it's I love that. It's contagious. That's a beautiful way to raise money.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We felt like what a better way to be a Christ-centered school and to teach those values of character to the children than having them get contagiously involved in service as a way to thank the community for donating to the school.
That is really cool. And I always love a good bake sale, but not the kind you go and buy from the store, but where moms actually bust out grandma's brownie recipe and you can buy like baked goods. But that's, again, at school, they don't let you do that. And when he talks about barriers, I think that, for a barrier for a mom, I mentioned all those things. Like for me, why haven't I just joined the coalition? One of them is one of my children, the girl. She likes to be around her friends and she's a good learner, and she just likes the structure. Whereas my son probably would prefer not to have, he'd probably prefer homeschooling, but we don't know what he wants to be yet. And my daughter wants to be a vet. He's not sure. So I do like that there's a lot of options you can take and a bunch of different classes in school he can take and figure out who it is he wants to be. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to do something with his hands or do something with computers. And so that would be one of my thoughts. Is there an option for him to learn computer coding or something like that? And that would mean that maybe you would need to have a teacher who knows how to do that, who would volunteer and offer a class like that.
Yeah,
or
finding
even
mentors.
If it's a class that parents could pay extra for. They pay a certain amount. I pay high school fees for certain classes. this class just requires a fee, and that fee goes to that teacher to come in and teach on a certain day of the week for an hour or whatever. I think that we're missing out on a lot of opportunities for people with skills to actually share their skills with students, because I know there are parents that would pay to have that knowledge taught to their child.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think there's a big need for freelance co-op teachers in the community who just freelance and say, I'll come to your home. You find a group of 10 students. There's math teachers, there's writing teachers, there's all kinds of teachers like that in the homeschool world who are just like, if you can pull 10 people together, I'll come into your home and I'll tutor your kids in this or that area, whatever you want, you know? And so we want to be able to funnel that into our building as well, so that there's just like a localized place that we can all meet together and have those types of experiences. And you talked about your daughter being super social. My daughter is really, really social. And one thing I have found about the homeschool community is you can be as busy as you want to be with these types of social engagements. And there's nobody busier than my daughter. She goes dance hopping all the time. She was at like a formal masquerade ball just a couple of weeks ago. And then she just got invited today to like a Halloween dance where she's going to be wearing her costume there. And anyway, she's like hopping all the time. She's going to like talent shows and all kinds of tournaments and things like that, from Salem all the way up past Ogden. Like, she's really well known in the homeschool community. And it's a tight knit group, you know, where you become very, very close friends. My kids went to a camp over the summer, and it was like a simulation camp. And so everybody would read a classical novel in preparation for the camp. So you all come with like kind of a foundation of understanding about a book. And then during the camp, you have book discussions and you have simulations and you have like different team building exercises that take the morals of that story and like kind of bring it to life and teach the different values and stuff that you can get out from the characters. Anyway, and those are just super cool. It's like a week-long escape room. A lot of these are like an escape room that lasts a week, and they're intense and they're so much fun. And Mr. C is one who loves to create those types of experiences for students too. So highly recommend finding simulation camps too.
Do they cost money?
Yeah. They're usually about $300 or $400 because they feed the kids for an entire week. But they're super cool experiences and so worth it, you know. But some of them don't. Yeah, those ones are. Mount Liberty College, they do a youth seminar a couple times per year. I love Mount Liberty College. That is the one college that I will send my kids to and not disown them. Just kidding.
No, kidding. And they won't disown you. You mean?
Right, that's probably the more accurate way to put it.
It's called Mount Liberty.
Yeah, Mount Liberty College. It's in Murray, and it is fantastic, where they study the classics. And like, so what a 3-hour credit or a 3-credit class looks like at Mount Liberty College is 100 pages of reading during the week. And then you come in person for a 3-hour discussion. And that's like a single class. So the class load is huge, but it's, but just in-depth, incredible discussions and studies of classical books and moral values. And it just shapes character like you would not believe. But they do youth seminars, and those will just be like a day camp. And they're doing those a couple of times a year. So definitely recommend looking those up as well if you've got a hungry teenager who needs some socialization. But you can, like I said, you can be as busy as you want to be. There's so many play groups and groups going to the temple and groups going out to lunch, you know, anything.
So
sorry, I keep looking around. I'm looking for a pen, but Jared, would you put Mount Liberty College in the comments?
Yes.
Yeah, or you can show up their website too.
So is Lily driving now?
She's about to get her license in a couple of weeks.
Oh, are you ready for that?
Yeah. So like I just said that I just had a baby, right? And so the day that I was finding out my baby's gender was the same day that she was getting her driver's. I was like,
Oh,
wow, I am one of these kinds of Utah moms who has all these kids like spread out in all these age groups. And yeah, so
not
I
to
mean,
stereotype or anything.
With Mount Liberty College, is that an online college?
it's an
But
in-person
only
college
has
in
like,
Murray.
so you go there in person and you learn, does it take you to a bachelor's or is it associates? Is it a master's program?
It's a bachelor's of oh my gosh, why
Art?
did this happen to me? Of a liberal arts degree. Yeah, bachelor's in liberal arts.
Liberal
So
arts.
they study all classics.
So
yeah.
my child who wants to go to medical school, could she go to a college like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
She
They
has to go
said
to
that that you go and get your bachelor's in liberal arts, and then you can go to a graduate school, and they are having high success rates of what types of graduate schools that these students are getting accepted into. It's like phenomenal. They're like seeking them out at this point. They want kids who are critical thinkers because it's so rare to find that quality now.
Yeah. And then, so that is a school that has a campus, I'm assuming, and
Yeah,
or is it like a ITT Tech where it's a campus but it's very small, or is it like UVU?
It is like they got this tiny little building behind some Chinese restaurant up in the top section of the, I mean, it's like what I'm doing. It's like renting a one-room schoolhouse, you know?
That sounds
but
delicious.
honestly, yeah, right. But honestly, it's like I have Liberty's Light Academy in my 20 or 30, and they have Liberty or Mount Liberty College with their 20 or 30. And then we have, Rise Up Academy is a really great one. And we have Sentinel Scholars, which is a really great one with their 20 or 30, and Rising Hope, all these little like groups with their 20s and 30s and 70 little kids. And it's like, you think you're not doing much. You think you're not doing much, but when you have all of these different groups with their 20 or 30, it's like, yes, we are changing a generation. I fully believe that we're raising the generation that is going to be restoring the Constitution. That's really going to help put things back in order for America. Like, we need those miracles. And if miracles have been done to save this land in the past, I 100% believe that our rising generation could be the one who helps perform that next miracle to keep America free.
I agree. And I'm curious because I want to make sure that I can sleep at night knowing my child is getting the right education to do and be whoever they want to be. But I think a lot of parents dread sending their kids off to college because of what I said. There's so much noise, where college is concerned, where it doesn't hit those important topics that these kids need to be successful in careers. And I am seeing a shift in a lot of companies, just on LinkedIn alone, where experience is now coming back to having its importance rather than, oh, you have to have a bachelor's degree to do this job. Actually, we want you to be able to work with people well. We want you to understand, the basics of the company, but we want you here long term. And so we want you to be able to work well with others and not have it be about justice warriors all the time and activists.
Yeah.
And so I think it is, and college is so expensive that it's not keeping up with what actual pay, what people are getting paid once they graduate. So I love this idea of sending my kids to a college that is affordable and it's going to give them all that important, crucial information they need in a successful career, and isn't going to fill them full of noise. That's just going to put a divide in their family, because you see a lot of kids come home from college totally divided from their parents and the values they were raised with. So yes, we want critical thinkers. That's hopefully, I would love to hook you up with Will, who does teach his online, but he's a critical thinking teacher. That's what he's done. He's taught for 17 years in private school setting in a Jewish school. And
wow, that's cool.
to have this critical thinking in young people is crucial for them to help save the republic, because
He
that's what's coming.
he also focuses a lot on he's not Jewish. He's just been a teacher at a Jewish school.
Yeah.
But he focuses a lot of he's a religious, he's a Christian. And so I think it would fit right in with you. And you guys would probably get along great. I'm wondering, have you thought about if you find someone who says, like, I don't know, maybe you got an acting teacher or something, and they want to offer their classes on, say, a Tuesday, one of your off days, would you be willing to rent out your space to them?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's really important to me. I want to be a blessing to the community. It is not easy to find a building like this, to be able to secure one that the community can use. And churches are not always open to the idea of renting out to different homeschool groups and freelance teachers. Sometimes they agree with the teaching, but sometimes they just don't have the spatial resources to give you like cupboards and stuff to store your things that you need. And so I just think I think this is the future, having dedicated school buildings for the community to use. Even if I had a mom who's like, this was my situation. I was like, I just can't motivate my kids to sit down at my own dining room table to learn. I need a formal space.
Yes.
If I have a free classroom that I can gift to a mom for a couple of hours and trade for a little bit of rent to help me keep the building, 100% I'm interested. And if they want to have like book clubs and stuff, yeah, I'm open even to like evening classes. So anything that's like learning center related, any type of education related stuff, if people want to host Constitution classes in the evening at my building, yes, 100% I'm interested in renting the building to them. I want to be a resource to the community. I think that's important. I think it's the future.
maybe Holly does a Constitution camp up here, and
yeah, come on down to Lehi.
You don't have to hide. Say hi.
They can see you.
Now do jumping jacks and run around in circles. It's good. Good to see you.
Oh, get that out of here. Did you make that? Oh, good. Go.
She's a good kid. But anyways, we're closing up here now. I have posted.
It has 0 sugar, obviously.
Oh, well, that sounds like a squinter.
I did want to say, what time of day does your school start?
We go Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we meet from 9 to 2.
I love those hours.
Yeah. Well, right on Lehi Main Street, so right off the freeway exit, and really close to Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain.
I'm around the mountain, so I would be probably 45 minutes away, if not an hour, if I went the back way.
Yeah, there's a really good one down in West Jordan too, called SVLA, that they meet together in the West Jordan area. Yeah, there's so many. Also
45 minutes. I need you to open one in Tooele County.
Yeah, I'm going down south first, but if that works well, if I can get 2 locations open, Lehi and Spanish Fork area.
Yeah. And see, we have such a big homeschooling community here. In our Patriot camp, that's most of our volunteers and moms are homeschool moms. And I've learned so much from them. And I just admire them and their hard work. It's not easy. To be a homeschool parent and their kids. And I don't know if your daughter does this or not, but you're paying property tax. So your daughter should be able to go to school dances at her local high school, or take driver's ed if she wanted to, or take a class that she likes there. Many of the homeschool moms here, their teenagers have integrated. One of my friends' child is on the basketball team. Even though he doesn't go to the school, he gets to play basketball there.
He misses out on the knife fighting class that Tooele High offers every Tuesday.
No, and then he goes to maybe like a computer studies class there on whatever day that's having it, but he homeschools on everything else. And I don't know if you guys even offer that to teenagers. It's a way for them to still kind of engage with their peers in going to dances or acting or things like that, but using the resource you're already paying for with your
Yeah, right.
taxes.
That's one of like, you know, I feel for people. I feel for me because I'm still paying education tax
Yeah,
and I'm opting out of the system and I still have to pay it. And that
It's
means that I'm still buying curriculum books for my children and paying
you're doing it
tuition and everything.
twice.
Yeah,
it's
right.
a it's a tough system that's been built.
Yeah.
The destruction of the Department of Education would be the best benefit for the whole nation. I say that unequivocally. The Department of Education, born in what, 76, and every year the value of that education has gone down since it was born.
Yeah.
When that was written
Jimmy
into
Carter.
law, when it was written into law, we were number one in the world in education. And it's not because we were the first ones there. We were number one in the world. But since it's been appeared, now we're what, 28th or 30th? But here's one thing about homeschool kids. I think we're going to start seeing them root more success out of life, business life, and that the biggest driver to that, and it's not the kids, and no offense, it's not the schools or the pods. It's that when parents decide to take that education upon their own shoulders, you're seeing a parent who is involved, and that is the biggest driver is the parents, because the easy route is to say, I'll just send my kid to school and, me and my wife will both work. When a parent gets that deeply involved, that is, I don't care what anyone says, your religion, I don't think has any effect on your future well-being. It's parent involvement that has the biggest effect. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your political ethos is. I don't care about any of that. If a parent is there every day, involved, there, that builds the community, that builds the safe place, that builds all of that. And that's where you see the successful kids come from. But
Yeah.
we've got 3 minutes left.
Wait, Jared, I want to add that though.
Oh.
A parent involved in religion, and a faith where a lot of faiths encourage mothers to be home with their children and be engaged and be involved, and I think they go hand in hand, because if you have the luxury of that, most women I know would be home with their kids teaching if they could afford it, and they can't.
100%.
And 8 hours a day with these teachers, is, so many of us were raised that way. We went to school, we came home, and the teachers had your kids 8 hours a day, and they get to know your kids in a way that we miss out on if we're not there. And he's right. The engagement alone of having a parent teacher, when I'm teaching it at Patriot Camp, my kids may not love my class the most, but they see other kids that really love my class, and then they get a lot of pride, and they're like, yeah, well, that's my mom. And then I get to see other parents inspire my kids, but just being there and watching it. And ours is only 1 week, and I get their kids for however many hours, and I go home feeling fulfilled. I know why teachers do the job. I know why they do it. I just don't know why my kids won't let me do it.
Well,
Oh,
I definitely
Holly
think there's
got
a
kicked out.
yeah, there's definitely a value to living vicariously through your kids and being able to have an open heart. You need to nourish yourself too. Nourish your
Am
heart.
I still here?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are. Hi, Holly. Yeah, nourishing your heart and making sure that you are open
Can you
to
guys see me?
learning. Yeah.
Yes, we see you, Holly, and hear you.
Did I lose
She,
you?
no,
Anyway.
Someone called her and it bumped her off, and it takes a minute for her phone to come back over.
But
I
yeah,
can't hear you.
Oh, well then now's our chance to talk crap on Holly. Anyways, I would like
Can
to
you hear
say
me?
yes. I would like to say everybody, especially you people that I shared this with my Utah County 2A group that I'm a part of. If you're interested in this, go to www.liberties. That's plural, liberties, or not plural, possessive. Lightacademy.org. Now you can obviously see I was public school raised, so I don't know the hooked on phonics. It did not work for me. Of course, and I also went to my elementary and middle school in Grantsville. So one day, everyone who's watched the show has known that when I was in high school, I went to animal science, the class I did really good at, and where we would slaughter and process animals for local farmers. That was a class I went to. But anyways, reach out to Katie if you're interested in this. And if you are interested in teaching a class, I mean, I think it'd be way cool if some hunter on Monday said, you know what, or a gardener came in and said, I would like to rent out your classroom to teach these kids, or especially say a mother who can figure out how to teach bottling in there. Cause that's something I want to pursue right now, is to learn how to bottle stuff. My mom knew how. She bottled everything. My sisters know how. I've just got to buckle down and learn that part. I learned how to go out and harvest said materials, said meat.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Jared, what about somebody who really knew how to run a firearm safety and did hunter safety?
For sure.
And
for sure.
Somebody who offered a course to that for kids. I mean, on an evening, most of us had to take hunter safety at 12 years old.
Now it's mostly done online. It's still, I mean, it's the state of Utah running it. So
I still would love my student to learn gun safety the same time, hands-on, rather than watching a video online.
And we're open to having, if people want to like rent out the building for a Saturday night seminar or something that they want to do like in the community to adults and not just to children, I'm totally open to that. I really do want to just be a resource to the community.
That's a good one. A GED prep for those adults who fell through the cracks. That's something where I think that should be the first thing you look for. There's a lot of adults running around that don't have a diploma, that don't have GEDs. And if you could get a GED prep in there to help out, that is still a benchmark. The sad thing about that is most people who don't have a diploma or don't have a GED generally don't have that self-taught knowledge to make themselves, to climb up and be self-starters. And a GED is literally an avenue to living a life where you can afford to live. And so I think that's very important.
If you have a love of learning, then you want lifelong learning, and nothing really matters. You can catch up. You can catch up. It doesn't matter what your age is.
My love of learning started when I was in my mid-30s. I am functionally about 15 right now, so let's just call it what it is.
So Norma says Norma can teach you bottling, so can YouTube, LOL, and Norma has bottles you can have.
That'd be perfect.
My mother canning, and she's an excellent canner, and she does tomatoes, and she's tried to teach me on a few occasions, and my mother sometimes gets irritated and gets because I'm busy and can't do it, and she'll just do it. But I absolutely need to learn how to do it, because I think keeping food fresh and storing it, and some of the best food I make is using my mother's bottled tomatoes.
Have you guys ever tried bottled deer?
Yeah.
Don't look at it. Just try it.
I don't like venison at all.
I'm telling you, bottled deer changes the flavor. It is.
I bet.
Oh, and bottled fish. If you look at it in the bottle,
Oh, brother, no.
it's hot. It looks like hot garbage. But when you taste it, like bottled fish is fantastic. Bottled trout and
Have you
bottled
seen
deer.
the YouTube TikTok video where they have that Swiss fish in a can?
No, it isn't.
And the
Yes.
challenge, people
Yes.
are literally dry heaving, just opening it.
Yeah, that stuff smells that way. But
Like-
bottled fish is good. And you bottle it with whatever seasoning you want. It cooks
Norma,
it in
do
there.
not teach this man to bottle anything. Or
See, I will say bottled meat is like the one hurdle I just can't get past.
Norma-
But my friend is like, bottled chicken is so delicious. It just
Dude,
sits in its own
bottling
juices
meat,
for like
that's where
15
it's at.
years.
are we
Norma-
talking about canned
Like, yeah, like canning,
or
like
jars?
jars. Yeah, jars.
Norma
this
is
is-
Norma
She goes, you would
is
love chicken. It just sits in its own juices for like 15 years. It's so
it's
delicious.
fantastic.
She says
Norma
you need
is my
you need
aunt.
a pressure cooker for meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
So you would
got
cook it.
I bought Katie one of those. Norma is my aunt or distant cousin, but I call her my aunt. Anyways, Norma knew my mom, obviously, because relative and humana, even though through marriage. But yeah, my mom bottled. I mean, whenever we harvest, I would harvest and take meat up to her so she could bottle it. It's so good.
Okay. Okay, brother, whatever you need.
It looks
I love
awful, but it
peaches
is fantastic.
tomatoes, and if anybody has tomatoes that they don't know what to do with, I am willing to take tomatoes off your hands. I know a lot of you people out there are gardeners and you might have a ton and you don't know what to do with. Send them my way, because then I will go with my mother and mom can help me learn to can them properly, because I loved canned tomatoes. I love how fresh they are even after years in a bottle. In a jar. And peaches, I love peaches too. And pickles, I love pickles.
She's just going to start naming all the vegetables.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I gotta jump off. I can hear
Yes.
my newborn baby crying.
This is the show. Okay, I expect to see a picture of said newborn baby.
I will. I can't
I'm
believe I
not
didn't-
playing around. I hear, yay, I had the baby, and then it goes bone
Congratulations.
dry.
I'll send you one. I took one today, and I'll
Okay,
Send
send
it to me
perfect.
too.
you. Okay,
Perfect.
I will.
What's
I will.
her name? Share her name with us
Mandy.
too when you. What is it?
Yeah, her name is Mandy.
Oh,
I don't
cute.
like if I text you one. I don't know if you can like pull it up on the screen right now, but anyway.
Well, let's not share her with the world yet. Let's keep some
Yeah.
privacy.
Yes.
Yeah, she's only 2
Okay.
months.
But Jared,
Everybody-
I wanted to talk to you for a second after.
Okay. Well, all right, Katie, we'll cut you loose. Thank you very much. And
I just made that picture.
perfect. I dig
Awesome.
what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, if you want to donate to our school, libertieslightacademy.org, scroll to the bottom and there's a donate button. And all of our students will do an active service in return
then
and pay it forward.
Do they send a photo to the donor to show the active service they've done on the flower? Or
They've been writing thank you cards to every single donor, and we've been hand mailing them to every donor.
wow, now that's
Yeah.
another lost art. Is
I-
thank you cards and mailing them out. I'm terrible at it, but every time I get one, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet.
Yeah.
And yet more people should do it, because it really does mean a lot to people to get them. And
the
that's
kids
great.
get to practice their cursive handwriting. It's all been really
Yeah, do a
good.
calligraphy class. That's something that's dead. I want to say you softballed that whole ginger part in. It don't get redder.
Oh yeah, my baby's hair.
Oh my goodness, that
Yeah.
she is beautiful.
Oh, thank
She is
you.
a beautiful
Thank you.
little girl, bright-eyed,
Thank you.
chubby cheeked.
Yeah, she
But
is. She's so
congratulations.
talkative. Thank you.
That's as ginger as it gets.
Yeah, she's number
100%.
5. So I thought I knew what she was gonna look like, but that one surprised me. Yeah.
Congratulations. And of course we've had Lily on the show before, back in its previous iteration. Say hi to Lily for me and Dave, and hopefully
Thank
one
you.
day we'll get her back on and Holly can meet her. She's an impressive
that's-
young lady.
Yeah, all my kids. I mean, I just could not do it without them. My 13-year-old this year is teaching science. She loves it. She's doing
Wow.
really, really, really well. She's 100% qualified. Because she's passionate. She has a love of learning. And my
That's
10-year-old is helping
fantastic.
with the baby so much. I couldn't do it without her, and I mean, it's a team effort, to run a school, to be the janitor and the owner and the mom of a newborn. And so when I
Well,
hear
Do you
mom
have all
like,
families,
I
girls?
can't. Yeah, I have one boy,
I
and
know
he's
that
6.
poor
Yeah,
kid. That poor
yeah.
kid. He needs to be entered into gun classes and swinging a hatchet
Hey, I have a
classes
lot of brothers, and so
and
I'll tell you, I think
sitting
it's good for
sitting in silence classes. How about that? There's a class that he could probably really benefit from. Actually, teenage boys are the noisiest. When boys hit about 10, they start randomly just making noises, almost like they're a bat at night, a chirp or a squeak or a squawk or a hoot. Yeah,
Hey,
boys.
Jared, when you're the only boy and you've got all
Oh,
these sisters have friends.
that
And when you
sounds
start
worse.
liking girls, oh no, then you've got like all these girls hanging out at your house all the time. And then you get older and you're like, hey, I'm going to go out with her and I'm going to go out with her.
Well, I don't know. Still, you
Hey,
don't want to
there's
date your
a small
sister's
little blessing
friends.
somewhere. Okay. Well, Katie, thank
Katie,
you for your
thank you very
time
much.
and
Thank
for
you.
your work. That sounds so great. And we're going to
Thank
look
you.
into it more and we'll have you on again.
Thank you. We're ready to receive those mamas. So just step out and you will have a place to land. So I'm
Perfect.
grateful to be
Awesome.
doing it.
Perfect. Have a wonderful night, Katie.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.
Good night.
All right, Holly, what do you want to get after me for?
I just wanted to see, have you noticed in the press that they haven't been talking much about the second assassination attempt? Well, they've kind of let the first assassination attempt kind of go.
Mm-hmm.
You're not hearing much about the investigation, as we figured. Remember, we thought this is just going to stall because they're going to get wrapped up. Now they've got the second one in Florida, where DeSantis has actually promised to use his investigators to get to the bottom of this attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen news reports of a recent rally where a group of people right by the entrance where Trump came up have left the rally sick. And one of the doctors said very well that it was a chemical burn. And so many of them had it that it's suspect. Like perhaps something was dropped right where Trump was supposed to come out.
Could be as simple as someone mixing vinegar and bleach.
But I'm wondering, was it a third assassination attempt?
Could be. What was it? Which senator or congressman came out and said he has evidence that there's 5 teams all on the prowl trying to make it happen?
I don't know.
Could be. Look, you don't get the media to universally come out with one single message. It seems like the wealth and the money all has a design, and that design is to not allow him to be president for whatever reason they are feeling that way. You've also got, I wanted to go back to, how you were talking about mothers that can afford it?
Yeah.
The super wealthy people live a very conservative life, even though they come out and support liberalism. And it's almost like I think my thoughts is it's like pulling the ladder up behind you.
Yeah.
Is they promote this debaucherous lifestyle, which is ruinous. It's ruinous if you want to have a successful life. If you're debaucherous, it's ruinous. Unless, of course, you're like maybe a honeypot agent for, a
Derek
spy
Swalwell.
agency. Oh, no, Swalwell is not a wealthy
like Krang
person.
Bang?
She was a honeypot, but I'm talking more Epstein. He was a honeypotter.
Or like Diddy.
Diddy, also another honeypotter. But you look at like Mark Zuckerberg. he lives a rather conservative life on the inside. He's been with the same woman forever. He's, you know,
He doesn't let his children use technology.
he doesn't let his
Especially
children on
social media.
Facebook. He doesn't let his children on Facebook. So
even Apple's founders don't let their children, the people that design the iPhones don't let their children use them.
Yes. So, but they support the debauchery down below them. And that knocks, I think, that knocks the competition out from coming up against them.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know?
And they monopolize it, and they do it using lobbying through and money through campaigns and government to keep
100%.
that power. And then they don't, yes, they pulled the ladder up behind them.
Just like
But-
Walmart supports government mandates on insurance clauses for companies that have X amount of employees, because Walmart can afford it. Walmart
Well,
can.
It's like Bill Gates and Microsoft back in the day when they were trying to call it a monopoly, and all of a sudden that disappeared. And yet any company that came out with a home computer that had access to the internet and all of that, they were getting bought out. And if they weren't, they were getting bullied through regulation.
Well, that's it's called the, I can't remember the name. IBM was drug in first on the home computer thing, getting drug into court. And
Capitalism.
as Bill Gates grew while they've got IBM in there, and it knocked IBM out of the market. IBM was dominating the market, knocked them out. And then next, Microsoft steps in with the programming. He got drug into court. IBM was in front preaching to the Congress and all that hearings for like 5 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And that allowed Microsoft to grow. Well, Bill Gates gets called in as soon as they're done grilling IBM. And the one thing they had in common before they went in was not the computer thing, not any of that. It was that they weren't big donators to political causes.
Yep.
And the minute Bill Gates got called in, he started donating, and they died. Yeah. They died right away. IBM didn't learn that lesson for 7 years. And had IBM learned that lesson week one, IBM would be the dominant force. There wouldn't be an Apple if IBM had learned that lesson.
Well, here's the problem with all of this. This tells me, I think Trump is a threat to crony capitalism. He's a threat to bureaucrats. He is a threat to, they keep saying, I mean, the left is saying how bad he's a threat to democracy. Well, I hope so, because we don't have a democracy. We do not want mob rule. What we want is a representative republic. And the thing is just, we can't even look at our national debt without just going, well, nothing we can do about it now. Just the money
at the very least, he's a threat to the current crony capitalists.
Absolutely.
At the very least. I don't know if Trump would allow pure capitalism to reign either. And let's face it, the Democrats, they kind of showed their butt this year. They don't believe in democracy. It's just a talking point. They showed it. Kamala Harris, democratically elected, 100%. I mean, she is the epitome she's the epitome of non-democratically elected republicanism.
Of a banana republic. It's what you see in Brazil. It's not what you see in the United States of America, and it's happening.
Banana republic part is them dragging Trump to every court trial that they can muster up.
And then when they don't win at court, now people are suddenly trying to kill him. And they're sitting there like, well, yeah. And a lot of the news reports were saying, well, he needs to tone down his rhetoric. I'm sorry, excuse me? Since the party that is constantly calling him a threat.
Yeah, pots and kettles.
That's like saying, oh, well, you saw what she was wearing. Of course she was assaulted. Like, what? In what world does this make sense? And what I'm afraid of is it's not going to stop. And I'm upset because it comes out now like any other bad thing in the news, and then it dies with the news cycle. If I'm Donald Trump, I'm not using Mayorkas and his Secret Service and his FBI and Homeland Security or whatever to protect me. I don't trust the guy at all. If I'm Trump, I'm hiring mercenaries. I'm hiring, military guys who are prepared to
Yeah.
make sure that I am absolutely safe. And I have a military chopper over me. I've got drones surrounding me. I've got, that guy had to wait his phone pinged in that one location for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And his golf game wasn't planned. It was a last minute decision for him to go play golf that morning.
It is, it's an interesting time we live in.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's an inside job, because it certainly felt like somebody.
Well, it could be an inside job. I'm not saying it's an inside job, but I'm just saying, let's say on average, that Donald Trump's going to want to go golfing 3 times a week. That. It could be an inside job. Someone saying when he says, all right, I want to go golfing, they say, you know what? That's a good idea. Your golf course down here close to us. It's real close to us. It's right there. And it's beautiful this time of year. They just got done, pruning the poinsettias, whatever. So it could be. I don't know.
All it is one phone call that says, oh, change of plans.
I wouldn't fall over shocked. But that guy was set up. He could have planned on hanging out there every day for a week. But
I'm glad he's alive. I wonder how long he will be. I'm glad he's alive.
Get a visit from Hillary.
Yeah, whoever. I would like to know.
Yeah, whoever.
He tried to fight in Ukraine, and they said he was wacky, and they sent him home.
There's a lot to it. I don't know. We're on the verge of World War III, so that's just seems like where we're at. We're being pulled in that direction from everywhere.
It could happen before the election. It could happen anytime. We've done the ultimate no, and that is sent missiles now to Ukraine that can go directly into Russia. This was the absolute end all be all. Biden said they'd never do that, but then he also said he'd never do a lot of other things, the air support and the guns and all that other stuff. I think it's a terrible, frightening time. And I think at the end of the day, I'm seeing these polls come out, and then you see insider polls. And I think Trump is going to win this election because people do not want these wars, because people are seeing that the parties are both making mistakes like crazy. And Trump's never been an all-in Republican. He is redefining the party in a lot of people's opinion. But what he is doing is he's putting forth America first. And I think that has to be, what does mass deportation look like? And does that go over well? The media is going to play it like Hitler loading trains.
I also wonder what it looks like. See, I like to look at both sides. Let's say he gets in. Let's say the dream comes true and he mass deports all the illegal immigrants. What does our economy look like the day after?
Well, that's just it.
That's a big question.
But you know what? The price of houses would go down because there'd be more available.
It might, yeah.
Your medical care, emergency room wait times and stuff will go down because there'll be less people in there.
There's a lot of
traffic goes down.
Thomas Sowell put it best, and he said There are no solutions. There's only trade-offs.
It's true.
And so
And you know what? Maybe you get a lot more teenagers get jobs,
maybe.
and a lot more retired folks can get jobs. And if the illegal, and when I say mass deportation, I'm not saying that you load them up and you send them back like that. I'm saying that you document them, you put them in a line, but they go back to their countries for sure. But I don't think the American people should have to pay for airline flights where they're all flying back into their countries. There's got to be a give and a take somehow.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that
I think
the
you
mass
start with criminals,
immigration,
though. I think you start with criminals.
of course. And you don't pay for airline flights. You just build a great big trebuchet.
A what?
Trebuchet.
What is that, Mr. Governor?
That's
I
a
didn't know.
catapult.
Oh, a catapult. Let's just say
Yeah.
that.
Because
Say
a
that for those of us in the back.
because a trebuchet is a very powerful catapult.
Well, then I'd be curious what Mexico would say if we just started mass migrating everyone to the Mexican border. You know what they'd say? That's an act of war.
Well, it's
Really?
not Mexicans that are coming across
I
illegally.
know that, but they're coming across their border.
They are, but that's because Biden broke agreements with Mexico.
Right. So I
They-
think I don't know what that looks like. And I don't think the American people probably know what that's going to look like, even though we all kind of agree that it needs to happen. We need the illegal, the undocumented folks that are here to go do it the right way.
Yeah.
I think if there was a way for them to come out of the shadows and do background checks and get a sponsor for them and have no illegal, crimes, things like that, maybe it pushes them up to green card status or something.
What if we did it? We looked at it. Okay, if someone is employed and they didn't hurt the local market gaining that employment, like Tyson Foods and Imperial Chicken, those guys need to be shut down yesterday. I mean, it's a crime what they did. Tyson came out and said, we're going to fire all of our natural born employees and hire all these illegal immigrants.
But that's a crime in itself. And
it should be. And
who are hiring illegals should absolutely be fined at least.
What if you've got a company where that's all that will work there? Like there are certain niche companies like industrial janitors or commercial janitors. They probably
a lot
employ
of hoteliers. I get it. A lot of restaurants.
So that's where we've got to come up with a grading system, but that's all for people a lot smarter than me and know what they're talking about.
Though, that companies and industries like that come up with a sponsorship option.
100%.
We've got to reform the very initial part of being of immigration. It's got to be reformed top to bottom. I don't want to see people loaded up on buses necessarily. And
neither side wants to reform it, just like abortion. You know what? I'll tell you right now. If, let's say, the Democrats win Congress and a bill for abortion, for national abortion, came to the floor, I'll bet the Democrats would poison pill it so it didn't pass. Just like Johnson is poison pilling the SAFE Act so it doesn't pass, because that is their argument to run next time. Neither side, the parties don't care about us. The parties don't fight for us. The parties fight so that the party wins. And both parties together fight so that the government just gets bigger and more expensive every year. The Republicans haven't came through on their message, not once, since they picked up that message when Reagan ran. The last time they came through on that message was prior to having that message of fiscal conservatism. And that was under Eisenhower. The last time the Republicans did anything that spoke to that, we're going to make a small, a streamlined government, was never When they picked up that message, they quit fighting for that. The Democrats, they're the same way, just on the other side. That's just how it is.
Yeah. So did you see Thomas Massey finally off the floor talking
Yeah.
about the spending bill?
He said he's not going to be a thespian.
He was brilliant because
Every
he went
time.
after both sides. You
Mhm.
both are we have this every single time. Bring me 12 separate bills. We should be voting on 12 separate spending bills. And every time you don't, you lock them into one, and we've got an all or nothing. And when Trump gets in, the military is going to have to be restored again. Our reserves are going to have to be restored again. Oil and our military equipment, all going to have to be restored again. So there's going to be a fat paycheck right there that's going to go to that. We have to start, like Thomas Massey said, we've got to get pre-COVID levels. This is insanity. We're running on COVID level money now. There has to be huge audits into the theft that was done during COVID by businesses, especially real or fake. They stole billions from that COVID money.
Well,
Those
and
people need to be prosecuted.
if
to
we
the
wanted
fullest
honest,
extent of law.
if we wanted honest, the federal government's, and I'm not a big fan of this on the outset, but what was it? Washington State sent $5 billion or $1 million to Zimbabwe in COVID benefits because they had a fraud. But then again, Washington State has an argument. Hey, you just dropped this crap on our lap and it was unplanned. Oh, well, there we go. So we need to go into governments don't deal with that crap. Just
I agree.
federal governments don't deal with. Matter of fact, I would make it so that the only health care that can be forced down onto the people or foisted on the people is county. That's it. She's okay. But
I don't need her face all over the internet. Oh, but somebody did come up that I got to meet from Eagle Mountain when I was at the Capitol, who watches our show.
Oh, very good.
I thought that was so cool. And he's like, yeah, I watch it on YouTube. So I was like, hey, we got recognized.
Very good.
He tunes in. So I'm just saying hi there.
Well, everyone, thanks for hanging on with us. I think that the homeschool movement's important, at least until we break the back of a nationalized school system. Just until we break that. Once that's broken, we can revisit what's what, because then you could have communities back in control of their education systems. But until then, and for you communists out there, like that teachers union in Colorado that is left of Marx, if you get rid of that, you can march in there, you can have sickles and hammers, and you can have mandatory dye your hair new color date, whatever. Do whatever you want. Just let it be a community driven thing.
I think that something Trump said that's very important is just getting rid of the Department of Education right then and there and giving it back to the states and letting states handle it. I think that is something that states could get behind. They're not going to like not having the money, but again, states already make plenty of money for education, and they spend plenty of money on education, and they haven't learned from their mistakes. So that's the definition of insanity. And I think as more and more schools like Katie's pop up, more and more families decide to leave the public education and do charters or private schools, that is going to force the government to fix it. But it takes the brave moms, like she said, and dads. I mean, some moms are the breadwinners and dads are home with kids. Some families have made an arrangement. One of us is raising our kids while the other one works. And more times than not, the dad is the one who's able to make, enough to support that. But by no means does it mean that maybe a mom doesn't make more and the dad stay home. Dads too could be teaching incredible classes to kids and really getting through to kids, especially kids who might not have a dad in the home. And it would be so cool to say, hey, Jared teaches shop and he teaches gun safety and hunter's ed on a Friday evening in this class. And oh my gosh, you can teach it. You go to the class and you're earning a little extra money in tuition from everyone. And these kids are gaining that one-on-one attention because you're so good with kids. You'd be so great at teaching gun safety and hunter's ed and shop and the things your grandfather taught you that you will always hold dear. Not every kid has a grandfather that can do that, or even a dad with the time. But I think more men should get involved in the education system, especially in something like this. I think it would just be great. Moms are great, dads are great, but they're both necessary for a kid.
100%.
Their influence.
100%. Well,
So-
you need to build both personality types in every person. You need to build the inner woman and the inner guy in
The
everybody.
lion and the lamb.
Yeah, you need to. I mean, it's how many ancient civilizations used scales in some part of their judging of whether a person was good, and that's the right and the left, the good and the bad, the stern and the gentle, all of that. You need both sides of that. So there it is. All right, that's the show, everyone.
Hey
Thanks for
guys,
joining
thanks
us.
for putting up with my internet, and then
It worked out well
me.
once you quit playing with it.
Well, I actually I lost you a couple times and then I just jumped back in. So
Yeah.
I ended
It
up
worked
turning
out
my
well.
Wi-Fi off on my phone. So I'm just using my data, but even then I got kicked with a phone call. So I have got to I don't know how to turn off my ability to take phone calls during the show.
That's a good point. All right.
Because if the phone rings, it kicks me. So
Yeah. Everyone, have a good night. And
have a great weekend. And
I'll
I
play
will
with
see
the
you
Zoom,
guys.
see if I can figure out how to port sound in with it.
Well, and then let's stay in touch for Friday for next week.
Yeah.
If you can get Thatcher on, that'd be great. I'd love to have a conversation with him. And I know we want to spring data and all of that. That's great. I think when you're talking about the data of the person who actually kicked the hornet's nest, I mean, you take it with a grain of salt. I hope our audience tunes into my short interview that I posted on our page and on the GOP page.
If that guy wrote and said caucus is canceled, didn't a guy go to jail for messing with election stuff with the Hillary thing?
Yes.
That'd be a thing to bring up with Thatcher. Like, isn't that kind of criminal?
It wasn't an official primary election. It was a presidential poll. So there's that for number one. But in that same argument, it was elections for delegates.
That's the question.
So,
all right. But hopefully we'll get Thatcher on. I'll reach out to him.
Get him on.
Yeah. I'll reach out to him and if he asks if you're going to be there, I'm going to be completely transparent. Say, yeah, Holly will be there.
Or just I'll ask him if he would prefer I'm not, because
yeah,
I can do either. I want him to be completely open and feel confident. And I if it means I'm not there and you're just talking to him, fine, I'll watch and I'll just leave comments. But I know a lot of people will be watching, and I'd like to advertise it because he represents Tooele County. I mean,
he does.
We are a large part of the reason he's elected.
Yeah,
and
we are.
I think he needs to face Tooele County members and
but he hasn't been out here in a while. Now, granted, he had a health issue that,
right.
But last time he did come out,
gotten better.
Last time he came out, he had a pretty contentious argument with a couple of people out here.
It was regarding the trans bill.
regarding the trans bill. And
And
granted,
you asked him to come out and explain it, and he hadn't. He wouldn't.
he said no. And that would be, and I don't really want to hit him hard on stuff. Like when I get the Democrat on, which I am working on that Democrat rep to come on. She is about to have a baby, which is why she didn't promise to come on. And I'm, bringing babies in. I think there's no pure thing on earth. So,
I love babies.
so after she has the baby, if she has time, we'll have her come on. I don't think she might be up for re-election, and that'll be a big thing, but she doesn't represent us out here. What's that?
Do you know what's she running for?
It's down, I want to say down in Utah County somewhere. I've got it on my phone. I'll dig it up at a later time, but
okay.
All right, everyone, have a good weekend. Be safe.
I appreciate all of you for tuning in and for your comments.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff, and hi, Mom, and Norma, and of course, thank you, Fred. And we just appreciate you. I didn't see anything. Adam on YouTube, did he tune in?
Yeah, he was there, but that was the only comments he made was that I had a Ukrainian flag. I guess that was a background left over from one of the other shows that shares our. See, we have a service brought to us by Main Street Media Utah. Everyone go check that out. But we have a service that's brought to us by them, and it is a shared service by all the different groups. So every once in a while, you'll see a bleed over, like my name will be some lady's name or something like that. Health Crusaders.
But our
things
show,
like that.
our show is the best show.
Yeah, I hope so.
Even with all the technical difficulties.
No, I don't know. Some of the other shows are good. Check them out. They do a lot of conversations.
They're all good, but if we don't at least pump ours up a little bit, then what's the point?
What's the point?
We just love doing it.